Hey, everybody. Thank you for coming to a special episode of Frank About Health. In fact, I decided to call it Frank About a Trip to the Brain. A lot of the last few weeks have really focused a lot of illnesses that I believe focus on the brain. They start there. How so? Well, whenever we're faced with experiences, whether they're traumatic or whether they are, in fact, organic in nature, you have a flu, you end up, having an infection or any of that stuff, the brain has a way of responding to that. We also have to respond to it by finding the right treatment. And thus far, as we've been talking about the last several weeks, there are alternative treatments, and there are, of course, the traditional ones that we all have to maintain our quality of life. Therefore, this trip to the brain is going to talk about two very important aspects of healthcare. One of them is medical tourism. Medical tourism has been a recent evolving treatment protocol that many patients have had to undertake for various reasons. One of them is economic reasons. Because of the high cost of treatments in this country, a lot of people have found that there might be better treatment protocols available in Europe or Asia or South America, to name a few. But it is also going to be a very interesting discussion about how it has evolved, how it has gotten a lot of people with chronic illness, as well as people who are looking for specialized treatments, interested to become involved in it. It is also in some ways a necessity, I feel, especially since I had talked on a show a while back about how I have to obtain my medications from Canada. Albeit it is not medical tourism in that regard, but it has a dynamic that's appropriate because we're talking about saving on cost. I do want to also let you know that we are having a returning guest towards the second half of the show. She was on the very first show. If you recall, we were talking about epilepsy and alternative treatments. Danielle Swanson, who will be available in about half an hour, will talk a lot about body, brain, yoga, and Tai Chi. That's the part about the trip to the brain. She's going to be able to show about the whole theories of body and brain education, or rather, brain energy, and the evolution of it from some historical figures, which we'll talk more about later on in the show. I figure for this particular show, it is going to be concentrated based on the speakers that are coming on, as well as based on trying to be more precise with how you can engage with me on social media. Therefore, I will only do 3 hashtags going forward. One of them is hashtag Frank About Health. Another is hashtag Talking Alternative, and hashtag, in the first segment of our show, Medical Tourism. Dane Krislevich will be joining us as well to discuss a lot of the economic aspects. And I'm pretty much personally looking forward to hear how this conversation is going to go forward, because what I've discovered is on every episode, I learn a lot as well. Okay, so I'd like to know if any of you have any questions about medical tourism, please contact me on Twitter at Frank Healthcare. And I've already mentioned the other means you can contact me through hashtags. What I understand is that Renee Marie Stefano, who is the CEO of Medical Tourism Association, will definitely provide added value on today's show as we take our trip to the brain. And as I said, both her and Dane Krislevich will be having and spearheading this conversation as we go forward. So I gather, Renee, are you in fact available? No, not yet. Dane, I think you're there.
Yes, I am. Good afternoon. Just on the call, we will be waiting for Renee Maria Stefano to join us as well.
Great. Okay, then maybe you could also shed some light on some of the aspects that we'll be hearing about as when she gets on the line. Do you have any thoughts you want to bring to the listening audience?
Well, I mean, I think for myself, I've seen firsthand some of the hospitals, the treatment centers throughout Asia that are involved in medical tourism. I've seen a bit about how it's been growing over the last couple of years. Can you hear me well?
Yes, I can.
Okay. And for me, I think that Maria is going to give us a great overview of what medical tourism is, how it has evolved and how it's continuing to improve. And then, just in general, I know firsthand that, by 2019, a lot of studies are showing that medical tourism market on a global basis will reach well over 30 billion US dollars. And it's been growing by about 15% per year. And a lot of that, has to do with, just, how cross-border hospitals are just continuing to improve and evolve, their level of services. So it's going to be a great conversation. It's going to be educational. Also, it'll point the audience into a direction where, they could also find, more information about, which treatments that they could obtain in which countries, what is required for it, like, a visa, obviously, a passport if you're going across, country lines, and then just in general, what is what the future is going to provide for the whole industry in general.
Before we speak with Renee, I just have a question, Dane, for you. Would you find that there is an increase in demand for medical tourism because of our own recent economic issues here in this country with regards to healthcare, or is there no correlation in that respect?
There is a high correlation. There's a high correlation, with the number of people that are first uninsured, that would need to have a procedure done. Then there's a higher correlation which, people that are insured, but now they have a higher deductible that they have to pay out of pocket. And, I guess Renee will give us a little bit insight into the economics behind it, for certain treatments. But if you're able to, essentially, get, developed medical treatments at a fraction of the price, in destinations that are far cheaper, then most definitely economics, does play into this a lot. Additionally, I think we've had a few guests on that have just talked about, in general, the length at which, it takes to sometimes get appointments, get a surgical procedure, put into place within, say, our country, or I know the UK has, very similar, patterns where, there's long lines and long waiting for, people to actually maybe have a surgical treatment, and so they therefore, look outside of their own country, for it. So there's a lot of factors that are put into place when it comes to it, but it's become a lot more developed, and it's basically, with more information, with is what Medical Tourism Association does, it puts it at people's fingertips. It's a lot better for the overall community to have this information and then be able to act on it.
Now, in your research, what have you found to be probably the largest countries that most people go to, or maybe it's around an even distribution between the three that I mentioned, for example?
Yeah, it definitely is. It's by certain levels of treatment. I'm not an expert on that. I'm going to sort of allow Renee to elaborate on that.
Sure.
But when you look across, where through my research and actually through, hospitals that I've visited, that have had a lot of medical tourism. I mean, you're seeing it in places like India, Thailand, Singapore, Malaysia, Mexico, Brazil, Taiwan, Turkey, South Korea, Costa Rica, Poland, Dubai, Philippines, and what I did find was in talking to, the hospitals and the staff is that they have a very well-trained nursing staff, doctor staff, clinicians that have studied in developed countries, with their education and also getting their actual practical experience, and then they've brought all this back to their home market, and the quality of the facilities it's unbelievable. Some of them are set up where it's almost like coming into a hotel. And the one thing that is very good about this is, it also allows for the locals in those communities to have an increase in the improvement of their own medical treatments, because, as these hospitals and clinics are, seeing more financial support and more patients coming over for medical tourism, that allows them to develop.
Yes.
And then it also, helps with the medical quality of the services for, the local people. So, it's a cycle in which, it's become more important for just people to have higher quality health care. And, that's one area that medical tourism provides for, individuals need to seek it outside their country, but also then because it furthers the development along with the local hospitals and everything else, then it improves the quality of life for everyone in general.
Awesome. I know we're about to take a break in about another minute, but before I go into that, I wanted to ask you one more question. Is there a particular disorder that you think our listeners are going to really understand the value of medical tourism going forward, that you think about, or that seems from your research to be a predominant reason why people travel abroad for their care?
Then again, I'm not an expert on. But
Sure.
From my research, I've seen that it's for various surgical procedures, dental tourism, cosmetic surgery, psychiatry. There's also, people have their genders changed in other countries. I'm not an expert on that either, but maybe we could find out more information. But it's not for someone that just goes over because they broke their arm.
Right.
That's where they would need immediate local care. This is where, there's a lot of thought and, put into it, a lot of planning.
Right.
And that's why the people at Medical Tourism Association, provide, all of that information and guidelines for, people to take advantage of.
I'm sorry to interrupt. We're about to go into our break. Hopefully when we return, we'll hear more from you and Maria. Renee. Hey everybody, thank you for coming back. As you all know, I was speaking with Dane about the medical tourism, which we're going to learn a lot about this afternoon. I also wanted to add, there are a lot of people out there from various countries, some of which we had a chance to discuss before the break. I gather all of you out there who are listening from those countries, you're probably already aware of some of these issues with medical tourism from a different perspective. So I'm glad you're all available to tweet amongst yourselves about the various issues of medical tourism. And I understand right now that our guest today, Renee Marie Stefano from Medical Tourism Association, is online. And congratulations for being on our show, Frank About Health. How are you, Renee?
I'm doing great, thank you. How are you?
Very good. I've heard so much about you. I'm glad I have the chance to meet with you right now.
Well, I'm looking forward to it.
So, Dane, I think you were, before the break, talking about some of the issues that I know that Renee has much more expertise on them. Well, would you like to expand upon them with her right now?
Yeah, hi. Good afternoon, Renee.
Good afternoon, Dane.
Thank you so much. So I guess for the listening audience, if you could give a general overview of what medical tourism is, how your role with being the president and the co-founder of the Medical Tourism Association, what your mission is, raising awareness, and then also, we could get into a little bit more of the logistics of, how medical tourism provides a platform, for people to, acquire, the medical treatments in developed countries, or developing countries at a fraction of the price. So just in general, like starting off with, what your thoughts are on, how medical tourism has evolved and improved, and then where we stand right now.
Great. So medical tourism essentially is someone traveling from their home location to somewhere else for health and wellness services. So that may be outside of their state, it may be outside of their country, but the common denominator is that this health and wellness seeker is looking for value. So the value might be they're looking for better quality, they may be looking for something that's more affordable, or they may be trying to avoid long queues or long wait times, or are looking for an advanced medical procedure or technology or medication that is currently not available where they are locally. But the key component of what defines a medical tourist versus, say, someone that's being emergency evacuated is that the patient has choice, meaning they're having an opportunity to think about where they want to travel for care based on those factors. And so this may be anywhere in the world. It could be from one state to another or from one city to another. So it does involve some sort of travel or transportation, which may be automobile, train, air flight. And in the end, what we advocate as an organization is transparency, education, and communication. So we founded the association on the idea that patients or prospective health and wellness seekers were challenged to find good quality services. A lot of what they were doing is searching on the internet, trying to ascertain what good quality there was, matching, say, apples to apples in terms of a knee replacement in India versus a knee replacement in Singapore. So the transparency of quality is important, the transparency of pricing, and we are strong advocates for educating the patient about their options and making sure that they're making an educated choice. Generally, patients are looking for, in terms of quality, they're looking for as good of quality, if not better, than they can get at home. And if they don't have to travel as far and they can get that quality, they likely will travel to places that are closer. But that presents quite a few challenges. Oftentimes, patients haven't been global travelers, so they may be challenged to understand how to get a visa. They may not know what hotels that would be appropriate. They may not have the information available to them readily on the internet, but moreover, some of the travel agents may not be familiar with medical-related travel to be able to support them. Oftentimes, they'll need to get visas. And this is an important thing because many patients coming from certain countries may have a struggle getting a visa. And so there are things like medical visas that can be acquired. So we work with the healthcare providers, but we also work with travel agents and what's called medical tourism facilitators, which are companies that build networks of healthcare providers and help support the entire patient management process. That may include helping them find appropriate lodging and appropriate travel support, assist them with acquiring a medical visa if it's necessary, and seeking safe, high-quality healthcare services. And some medical tourism facilitators will also help patients obtain quotes for the care and be able to provide testimonies from prior patients, references, so that the patient has an easier decision-making process and also has the confidence to know that they're going to a good quality facility with a doctor that's experienced and that they won't necessarily have any problems such as language barriers or safety issues and those types of concerns that may arise. So our organization is really focused on in several areas. One, we work as an advocate for the industry in and of itself. We set best practices for patient management, And so we certify healthcare facilities. We also certify hotels and recovery centers that will receive a health and wellness seeker for recuperation. And we also have gotten more involved in things like developing a technology called the Global Patient Management System, which helps improve the care continuum for a patient over the long term. So we're looking at all the gaps and the touch points in the industry as an association and working collaboratively to try to fill those gaps with trustworthy, reliable services and technology.
Awesome. If you don't mind my asking, with the insurance companies in various countries, is that something you also get involved with, or is that a different issue?
Well, on the education side, one of the biggest areas that we felt would boost the opportunities for medical tourism, and we strongly believe in medical tourism because we believe it affords a patient the opportunity of choice. And whether a patient is paying on their own for their services or whether they are using their benefits through an employer-sponsored plan or even individually insured through a fully insured insurance company, we believe that patients should have the element of choice. So we work with a lot of international insurance companies, a tremendous number of U.S. insurance companies, and we also dedicate our time to educating self-funded employers about opportunities that may be established through implementing medical tourism with their insurance plans. The idea is that not only can this provide greater opportunities for the patient, but it can also reduce the overall cost of benefits for employers so that employers can offer more robust programs for their employees. So again, allowing that employee to have a greater element of choice. And we've seen not as quickly for the fully insured carriers to implement medical tourism, but we've seen a tremendous amount of growth in the self-funded employer market, predominantly because self-funded employers have a lot of control over their benefits packages. They can be very creative, and they're able to look at cost reduction strategies, and it's very important for them to focus on improved solutions for their employees over time. So medical tourism is a very creative way for cost reduction, but also, I think more importantly and more attractive, it's for employees to be able to travel for services where they may get better outcomes. Right. And if they have better outcomes, then the time that they spend outside of work is reduced. They return to work quicker. There's a reduced likelihood of complications, and all these things are great for the patient, their families, and the employers that employ them.
It's wonderful. Personally, I think it's a wonderful option to maintain quality of life. So, Dane, you were going to discuss other economic issues that are...
Yes, so Renee, beyond just the economics behind medical tourism, does your association promote a forum for communication in your last point where you talked about being able to allow families the knowledge of where they're able to receive, better, care, the time that it took for everything else? Do you have like a forum where all this is being aggregated that people would be able to go to and then look at?
So we have various educational websites. Medicaltourism.com is our consumer site where we have a directory of providers that we have collaborated with, where that is attached to HealthFlight Solutions Global Patient Management System. It's a very robust technology. There's really nothing else like it. It allows patients to compare one provider against another, one doctor against another for the services that they're looking for. So I use the example of a knee replacement. When you're asking for a knee replacement, it involves various aspects of that procedure. So a knee replacement in a hospital in India is going to be compared with the same knee replacement service in Thailand. And so there's no question when you look at cost comparisons that you're comparing apples to apples. We also have Medical Tourism Magazine, which is our industry publication where we have a lot of case studies, patient stories, and information, everything from about, risk of complications to opportunities for traveling to different areas for services and specific advancements in medical technology. There's a lot of great articles on there for prospective patients to find. And then additionally, we have produced the Medical Tourism Index, which is medicaltourismindex.com, which is a global index that measures the perception of a destination for medical tourism based on 34 criteria. There's 41 destinations listed there, and our most recent study had 4,300 respondents, but it essentially will evaluate the destination environment, the medical tourism industry environment, and the quality of facilities and services in hospitality and healthcare.
Excuse me.
So that also
Renee,
gives you an idea of things like safety and security and that type of thing. So if a patient is thinking about going to a particular country or
Renee,
part of the world,
Renee,
they can
I
look at that as perhaps a first stop.
We're about to take a break, Renee.
In terms of selecting the destination. So those types of resources we publish. And then for industry professionals, our training, we have business
Okay, Renee, I apologize, but we're going to have to take a break right now, and we'll be back in a minute.
We have an annual conference this year. Our event is...
Hey everybody, apologize for that quick edit. Thank you again to Renee Marie Stefano, CEO of Medical Tourism Association. I want to continue conversations with her, but I get that the best thing for each of you out there who's listening to this show is to reach me on Twitter. #Medical Tourism. @Frank Healthcare is my handle. We could definitely follow up additional questions. Dane, thank you again for introducing us to her. And I gather you're still on the line because we now have another interesting guest, a returning guest, Danielle Swanson.
Thank you very much.
Oh, very welcome. And Danielle Swanson, who is our returning guest from our first show, who works with Body, Brain, Yoga, Tai Chi. I have a personal relationship with her based on both healthcare and friendship issues, which is a good thing. But she has agreed, and I'm very grateful to her returning, so we can really now explore, instead of an illness-specific issue with what she does, but the whole issue of brain education and brain energy, which I'm looking forward to hear. So, Danielle, are you available online?
Yeah, hi Frank, how are you?
Pretty good. I'm glad to hear from you again. Happy 7-year anniversary, you know what I mean. We just wanted to basically follow up on what you were talking about with what you do right there at Body, Brain, Yoga, Tai Chi. I know that Dane and I had spoken to you a little bit about Il Chi Li, and I figured that you have a lot of insight into a lot of what brain education and brain energy is about and how it relates to specific illnesses or other kinds of things that can benefit from this type of treatment. Are you there?
Oh, yeah, sorry. It's just reception's a little bad up here. I'm actually up in the Lake Placid today, but yeah, I've been practicing the body and brain yoga and Tai Chi for about 7 years now, so same amount of time as I've known you for. But yeah, so body and brain yoga for me has personally helped me on several levels, on helping me to reduce a lot of anxiety and to deal with some depression. And I've had a seizure disorder, which we talked about last time I was on there, for about almost 20 years now, 19 years. But it's helped me to reduce the seizures and to get off of some of my medications. And I've been teaching the body and brain yoga now, as well as brain education, for about 4 or 5 years. And I've seen it help a lot of people also who have like autism and ADD, ADHD, to focus and to become more relaxed and to feel more confident. You know, I think a lot of times when there are different physical or mental, quote unquote, issues, you know, people start to feel uncomfortable or like an outsider or strange or some kind of loneliness feeling. But I found that this practice really helps to build a sense of community and confidence that otherwise gets sometimes lost. Just in the way our society's set up these days.
Yes. By the way, I want to tell everyone out there that your conscious consultant, Sam Leibowitz, is going to be joining us on this. I know he's got expertise in this area, and I figured, Danielle, you and Sam can learn a lot from each other. And I figured the one particular thing I thought that you both can spearhead a conversation is about Ilchi Lee himself and how he has done a lot of initial research into this field. So I'm glad to hear that it helps you. I know some of the suggestions you've given to me has helped me as well, but I figured I'd like to know more with you and Sam as to what Ilchi Lee has done, what you both understand about his methodology, and I guess just see where we can go with this. I mean, to learn more about an alternative treatment that's recommended for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Sam, I guess maybe.
So Danielle, you've been practicing this now for 7 years. It's a form of Tai Chi, is it?
Yoga, Tai Chi, mindfulness.
Tai Chi,
it's kind of a combination of things.
So this is where you're focusing not just on the brain, but really using the body as well, because the body has its own intelligence, doesn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. So that's actually what really drew me to this, is that it's not just trying to do everything with the brain. It's not just physical exercise, but it really ties the two together and really helps people to sensitize, to feel their body and the body's own intelligence, as you just said. I think a lot of times with all the technology these days and a lot of stress levels kind of take people up and out of their bodies, and they kind of lose the sense of what different physical feelings actually mean. Whereas when you take time to feel your body, you can actually use it as a tool to help you rather than feeling upset about it.
Right. And Tai Chi, people, know it is a martial art similar to, not similar to, but like, Kung Fu and Karate and other forms of martial arts, except Tai Chi is more of a moving, meditative type of martial art. And there's a real energetic component to it, isn't there?
Right, and that's what we say, at least in body and brain education, is that sort of the key difference is that Tai Chi is all about feeling energy as you move.